It's Sunday, February 9th here at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, California. Parked in front of the Beach Chalet and Park Chalet restaurants. Good solid restaurants for some good food, as well as nice views of the beach, as well as Golden Gate Park. Was gonna do some hand recaps outside, but today there's a high wind advisory, so it's gonna be a little bit too windy to try to talk into the camera and microphone, so just gonna do it from the car. I'm going to run through the hands played last night at the first ever meetup game hosted at Lucky Chances with just Christy B, P's and Q's Poker Vlog, and CzechRaiseCharles. We played 3-3 no limit, $100 to $500 buy-in, and it was a really strong showing. Really happy with the turnout. We had around 60 people sign up, and we had 5 tables running, and so just gonna dive into the hands. This first hand takes place during the opening orbit at the initial table. We're playing with the straddle on from anywhere, and in this hand, the cutoff has the straddle. I'm in under the gun +1 with ace queen offsuit. I raise it to $20. Folds around to the cutoff. He makes it $55. We both started the hand with $500, and I make the call. We go heads up to a flop of ace jack 5 all hearts. So flop top pair here with the second nut flush draw. I check. He bets $70 and I make the call. The turn comes a 6 of spades. I check and he bets $85. Pretty interesting sizing here. It's small relative to the size of the pot, as well as small compared to his flop bet. I'm not exactly sure what his motives here are, but I suspect that he's trying to bet small here and have a ton to just pile on the river to represent a pretty polarized type hand range. The problem is that I kind of have the cards I think he wants to be using to represent that. Obviously, I have block pocket aces. I've got the queen of hearts to block strong flushes. So the only hand I'm really afraid of is ace king with the king of hearts here. So with all that in mind, I decide to just get all the money in here. I put $375 all in. He's in the tank for a little while, and he does make the call. So a little bit worried now. I do table my hand right away before the river, and the river comes out a 10 of spades, and it turns out to be good. So one pair here, top pair, take this one down. Nice start to this meetup game. In this next hand, there's an early position raise to $10. I'm on the button with pocket hooks, and I 3-bet it to $30. I get calls from small blind and early position. We go 3 ways to a flop of 9-6-4 rainbow. Small blind checks, and early position leads in for $25. I decide to raise it up here to $65. Small blind folds, and early positions in the tank for a little while before making the call. We go heads up to a turn of a 5 of spades. He checks it this time. I fire out $100, and he makes a pretty quick fold. So take this one down as well. Shortly after, we play the first bomb pot of the afternoon, and the winner of the hand went to a very deserving man by the name of Frank. Shout out to you, Frank. Thank you for the beer and taking down this bomb pot.
That's a bomb pot special right there.
It's the bomb pot winner right here. 2 quick hands to run through here. In this first one, it's a straddle pot. I'm in middle position with pocket 10s. I raise it to $20, and I get calls from the low jack and big blind. We go 3 ways to a flop of king 3 deuce with 2 spades. Big blind leads right away for $65. Around pot size bet here, and given that I do have the 10 of spades in my hand, I think it's slightly less likely that she's doing it with a flush draw. So I feel like most of the times here it's going to be a top pair type holding, and I'm going to be pretty well behind here. So I decided to make the pretty quick fold, and low jack folds as well. So shout out to big blind who takes this hand down. Her name was Alicia. Thank you for coming out to the meetup game and taking this pot down. Next quick hand here, middle position has the straddle on. Under the gun raises to $20. Low jack 3-bets to $40. It gets to me in the big blind, and I've got ace queen of clubs, a really good hand candidate to put in some more money here. I want to thin the field here. I don't want to go heavily multi-way out of position with this hand, and so I decide to 4-bet it to $120. The straddler makes the pretty quick fold. Under the gun folds as well, and the initial 3-better, good man by the name of Garland, lets it go as well. So happy to take this down, not facing too much resistance. Would have also not minded going post flop with this particular hand holding given how strong it was, but happy nonetheless to take it down pre-flop. Last interesting hand to note here at the first table, early position raises to $12, late position calls. I'm in the small blind with pocket aces, 2 red aces, and I fire out a 3-bet to $65 and only early position calls. Heads up to a flop of ace king jack rainbow, so flop top set here. I down bet it for $40 and early position calls. Turn comes another king, so fill up, and I decide to check it this time, and he checks it back. River comes a 9, and this time I fire out $100. He thinks it through for a little bit and makes the call. So nice to take this hand down. And the one thing I forgot is that we were actually doing 50% increase on promotions. The normal promotion is when you have a high hand of aces full of kings or better, you get some form of money. Aces full of kings usually gets you $300, but because there was a 50% increase, I was able to get $450 for this particular hand. So nice run good to wrap up the time spent at this first table. First notable hand at the second table takes place when I raise it to $15 from early position with 6-7 of diamonds, and both of the blinds decide to defend. We go 3 ways to a flop of Queen 9-7 rainbow. Checks to me, and no real hand here yet, but I do got some good backdoor barreling type possibilities with some straight draws and some flush draws potentially coming in on the turn. So I decided to fire out a bet of $30 and small blind folds and big blind calls. Heads up to a turn of an 8 of hearts, so I pick up some of that backdoor equity that I was looking for. Big blind checks it, and it is a dirty end of a straight draw, so if a 10 comes, I'm not going to feel great because a jack will complete. And sometimes I think it makes sense to check back a hand if you have some equity that you pick up on the turn to try to realize. But in this case, because I do have some dirty outs and I have no showdown value, I want to continue firing here to kind of maintain a little bit of aggression as well as capitalize on the equity that I still have. So I fire out a bet of $85, and he's in the tank for quite a while and ultimately decides to fold. So this was the hand against you, Hassan. I know you wanted to know what I had, and this is the hand that I had. So take this one down. This next hand, it's a straddle pot. Late position raises to $25. Cutoff makes the call. I'm in the big blind with pocket aces again. I fire out a 3-bet to $105. Late position tanks for a little while before clicking it back for $200 with $350 back. Gets back to me, and when he clicks it back, it feels like he's got a pretty strong hand, and I feel like it's probably going to be a cooler situation here for him. So with that in mind, I decide to go all in. He thinks it through for a little bit and decides to make the call. We table our hands, and he shows ace king of hearts, so it definitely is a cooler situation, and the board runs out. In this next hand, I decide to open up the range slightly. I raise it to $15 from under the gun with 3-5 of clubs, and I get calls from middle position and the small blind. We go 3 ways to a flop of Jack 4-3 with 2 clubs. So very good flop for my specific hand holding. Bottom pair here with a flush draw. Small blind checks, and I decide to check it as well. Middle position fires out $20, small blind folds, and I decide to just make the call here. Looking to take a bit of a mixed strategy approach with this hand and trying to, employ a little bit of deceptiveness as well. The turn comes a 3 of hearts, so that's a very good card. And I suspect that a lot of times that this player is going to be checking back a lot of turn cards unless he has a hand exactly like Ace Jack, where he's going to go for all 3 streets of value. So in an effort to avoid having it just to go check, I fire out a bet of $40 to disrupt the flow a bit, and he decides to make the call. The river comes another great card for my hand. It comes out a 5 of hearts, so make the full house. And now it's a matter of thinking about sizing. I ultimately settled on $80, which is more of an all-encompassing sizing. And looking back, I think I would have preferred a more polarized sizing, something a little bit larger, but ultimately settled in that moment for around a half pot bet. And after he thinks it through for a little bit, he makes the call. I table my hand and take this pot down. This next hand is a straddle pot. Middle position limps. I raise in the hijack with 9-10 of hearts to $25, and only the middle position player calls. We go heads up to a flop of ace queen 6 with 2 hearts. So a flop the flush draw here with, I believe, a little bit of range advantage against this player. He decides to check. I fire out a bet of $20. He makes the call. Turn comes on ace of diamonds, and this time when he checks it, I decide to check it back. River comes a 5 of hearts, so that's a really good card. Make the flush here, and he puts out a block bet of $10. Pretty interesting spot because I was expecting him to check, and I was going to fire out a more all-encompassing sizing type bet, something around half pot. But when he decides to block bet it here, I kind of decide that I want to go polarized here. So I raise it up to $70, and he's in the tank for quite a while. And after thinking it through for a bit, he decides to call, table my hand, and take this one down as well. This next hand takes place when I open it up to $15 from early position with ace deuce of hearts, and I get 4 callers. We go heavily multi-way to a flop of 6-4-3 with 2 hearts. So another very good flop for my specific hand holding, but it's not going to be the best flop for my overall range, particularly given that it's a pretty multi-way pot here. So I decide to check it. Early position player to my left bets $50, low jack and cutoff call, button folds, and I decide to make the call, playing the hand fairly straight up here given that it is multi-way. We go 4 ways to a turn of a 3 of diamonds, so not a good card because it pairs the board. I check, early position bets $130, low jack goes all in for $180. Cutoff is in the tank for a bit and makes the call. Gets back to me, and I think I've got a pretty clear fold here. It could look slightly nitty given that I've still got the nut flush draw, but I think on occasion I could be drawing dead and drawing dirty here given that it is multi-way with all the action that's been presented to me thus far. So I decided to let it go. Early position calls, and they go to a river of a jack of spades, and I believe the action on the river went check check. The player to my direct left shows pocket 8s. The low jack mucks his hand, and cutoff shows pocket 10s to take it down with the overpair here. So misread the situation. The nut flush draw was good here, and the ace looks like it probably could have been good here as well, but ultimately missed on the river, and I think got away fairly cheap with my hand holding there. Next hand, there's an under the gun straddle. I raise it to $20 from the big blind with ace jack off suit, and only the straddler makes the call. Heads up to a flop of king 4-3 rainbow. Good spot here, I think, to continue repping. I fire out a bet of $15, and he decides to make the call. Turn pairs a 3, so another pretty good card, I think, for just my general range and aggression here. So I size it up a bit. I go $50. He thinks it through for a little bit, makes the call. So that's not a good sign. I think he's going to have value here at this point. So when the river peels off a 7 of spades, I decide to just give up and check. He fires out a bet of $100. I make the pretty quick fold, and he was kind enough to show me his hand. He had king 7 off suit for top 2 pairs. So lose this one. This next hand is a straddle pot, middle position limps, and I raise it to $25 from the low jack with a very premium hand. I've got deuce 4 of diamonds, and the straddler and middle position decide to call. We go 3 ways to a flop of ace jack 3 with 2 diamonds. So another very good flop for my hand here with the gut shot and the diamond draw. When it checks to me, I bet $35 and both players call. Turn comes a 10 of hearts, so it puts out another flush draw there. And when it checks to me, I decide to check it back. I think if it was a non-Broadway card, I would begin to fire out a big bet to start polarizing, but I think it's going to be a card that's going to hit their hands and allow them to continue. So in an effort to shift away from pressing on my equity and trying to realize now, that's part of the reason for checking back. And we go to a river, which comes an ace of clubs. And when it checks to me, definitely can consider bluffing here, given that I've got no showdown value, can't win this hand otherwise. But again, I think I'm going to get called here a decent amount of the time, more frequently than I can get them to fold their hands. So I decided to check it back and just let everyone table their hands. And both players show king 10. So they chop up my money there and take this hand down. A few more hands to run through, all of which take place at the final table of the evening. It's a 3-way limped pot. I'm in the small line with 6-9 of clubs. We go to a flop of 10-5-4 with 2 clubs. So floppy flush draw here. I lead for $10. Big blind folds and middle position calls. Turn comes a 7 of hearts, so I pick up additional equity. I bet $20. He makes the call. River comes an 8 of hearts, so it completes the backdoor flush, but I make the straight, a fairly disguised straight at that. And I bet $40. He's in the tank for a little bit and makes the call. Table my hand and take this one down.
Dirty way.
And this next hand, hijack raises to $15. I'm the only caller from the small blind with ace 7 of clubs. Heads up to a flop of 877 rainbow, so very good flop, getting trips here. I decide to check, he bets $20 and I make the call. Turn comes a queen of diamonds and actually checks through this time. River comes a deuce of hearts. I lead for $40, and after he tanks for a little while, he decides to put in a raise to $100. I definitely did not expect that play, particularly given that he tanked for a little while. And when he makes that sizing, it's going to be most likely for value. I doubt that he's going to be going with that sizing as a bluff. So it's going to be value here, and it's just a matter of what hands I beat and don't beat. And honestly, I'm never folding my hand here, and I don't know that I can go for a raise and get called by worse. So after deliberating for a little while, I'm guessing kind of that I'm beat, actually, that he might have rivered a hand like pocket deuces. But as mentioned, my hand is way too strong to ever fold. So I just put in the call, and we table our hands, and he shows pocket king. So I do beat that hand, and after looking at that showdown, it makes a little bit of sense in terms of what he was trying to accomplish. He's thinking I have a pair of eights or maybe a pair of queens at best, and he's looking to squeeze some thin value with pocket kings. But this time I do have the goods. All right, last interesting hand to note from the evening. Unfortunately, was not able to get any video footage of this one as I was packing up and wrapping up the night. It actually took place, I think, around the last orbit of the evening. I'm in other gun +1 with pocket jacks, and I raise it to $15. I get calls from middle position and the button. The big blind puts in a 3-bet to $73, and he's one of the tighter players at the table. I consider folding, but I think it's a little bit too nitty, particularly at a meetup game. So I make the call, and middle position calls as well, and the button folds. We go 3 ways to a flop of ace jack 8 rainbow. So flop middle set, very good flop here. Big blind continues for $110, leaving about $260 back. I decide to just flat here, and the middle position player folds. The turn comes a king of diamonds. The big blind goes all in for $260. I make the quick call, and the river comes a 3 of clubs. We table our hands, and he shows pocket aces. So he did have the goods there, and he flopped top set to my middle set, ultimately being a cooler situation after seeing that flop. So a little bit of a rough beat to wrap up the night, but all in all, ran super hot and super good. After it was all said and done, I was in the game for $500, did not have to add on, and over the course of 6 hours of play across 5 tables during the meetup game, I ultimately cashed out $1,752. So book a profit there, and even more importantly though, it was just a fantastic event. Really glad with how it all turned out. A big thanks to some of my friends that were able to come out and support the event. Big shout out to all the other vloggers that participated in this collaboration. I'll make sure to include their channels below in the description box. Make sure to check out their channels, their videos on this particular vlog, and get their vantage point, as I'm sure it'll be super fun and interesting as well. Big thanks again to Mike Sweeney and Lucky Chances for embracing this experiment. We didn't know if this was really gonna happen in the Bay Area like this, and just really happy to kind of have it all come together with all of us collectively together, and just trying to put on something a little bit different, something that's never been done at Lucky Chances. And last but not least, just a really big thanks to everyone that came out. It's super humbling, you know, when you start something like a YouTube channel, especially like a poker vlog. Like personally, I didn't expect it to kind of ever come to this point of putting on like a meetup game, and to have a lot of you come out and enjoy the content, and more importantly, enjoy kind of the community component of what we're trying to do with meetup games is really cool. You know, you get to play poker with a lot of people, and oftentimes you don't have in-depth and interesting conversations because you're grinding it out. And that's definitely different at these kind of meetup games. I had an opportunity to talk with a lot of you, and not just about poker, but about life and other things as well. And those are the things that I really kind of appreciate when it comes to that people interaction. So big thank you to all of you for coming out, continuing to support the efforts of poker content creators. And I really hope we can do it again soon. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. Really special vlog, of course. Not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing next in terms of the kind of vlogging perspective. Been doing a lot of different things lately with tournaments at Thunder Valley. Just came back from San Diego, did a really nice Chinese New Year themed vlog, and now this meetup game vlog. So I've done a little bit of everything, and it's, I think, kind of hard to think of some new ideas. There are some card rooms that I haven't been to yet in the Bay Area, so maybe I'll change it up and try to go to those, bring some of that onto the channel. As far as actual plans for other destinations, in March, I'm going to be going to San Diego again. I got a friend that's getting married, so we'll try to fit in some poker time then. Running Up Reno is happening in April. I plan to make a trip out there as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Not sure what's next, but hope you all continue to follow along for the journey. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.